You're watching Cable 2.
Since we have returned back into open session, I would like for us to all stand to pledge to, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, our board member, Deanna Kaplan, is going to provide the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear God, you not only give wisdom to leaders, you are wisdom itself. Lord, please give our fellow school board members the wisdom to steer our school district on the right path with our unwavering commitment and focus on the well-being of all of our children, our educators, and our community. Please guide our board meeting tonight and help us to remember that our shared values and goals outweigh any political agenda and that our focus remains squarely on the children of Forsyth County, no matter gender, race, or socioeconomic position, and that they receive an excellent and equal education. God, please bless our board members and their families. Amen.
Thank you. Before we move to the agenda review, I do want to recognize that although board member Calvert Hayes is not here, we wish that she comes back in sound health and safety. She's traveling right now, and I told her that I would let the public know that she wished she could be here tonight, but she definitely would be here at our next meeting, and so she wanted me to just give you all her regards. So first, what we're going to do is the agenda review, and if there are no changes to the agenda, is there a motion?
I think we have a change from a committee meeting.
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Crawley.
Yes. So from buildings and grounds, we have one additional action item on a construction contract change order.
So is there a motion to
Turn your mic on.
So I make a motion to add an agenda item under the action items for tonight's agenda for Conowick Elementary School construction, a contract change order.
I second that.
It's been moved in second. All in favor? Oh. All opposed? Okay. So the motion is approved and the agenda is amended. So next we have public comments on the agenda item. And I will just remind the public that, of course, you have 3 minutes to come and speak to us in regards or make comments on the agenda, and you will see the time there to just help you to monitor your comments. I will say that although based on, just proper procedure, we do not add any feedback, but we are listening very intently, and if we can respond to any of your questions tonight, someone in the back probably will, and if not tonight, we'll definitely figure out how to get you a response. And the first person we have is Mr. Al Jabbar, and his topic is on buildings and grounds.
Cheryl Woodbury,
Yes.
and other members of the board. I am Al Jabbar, and I come tonight on the building and grounds discussion really around Ashley. I had the opportunity to sit in on a building and grounds committee meeting today, and for some reason, it appears that Ashley is not a priority. And the reason I say that is I sit there, some of the people who came forward from the old board still feels like they must tangle when it comes to the discussion of Ashley. I'm very disappointed in that because we need to be very transparent and unified as a board as we move forward. So I suggest that all of this sideline bickering would stop. We have not had an elementary school built in East Winston in over 50 years. Now, I continuously hear the Haynes-Lowrance sidebar discussion when we talk about Ashley. It seems like we diverted. We are really appreciative of the fact that the people at the old Haynes had the energy to step forward and say they were not going to allow their kids to remain in that facility. We are stepping forward saying we're not going to allow our kids to remain in that facility, even though we've done some cosmetic things to that school. I pray that this upcoming year, that this school board will find it very necessary to fulfill the promise that was given to us in terms of getting back to us with a promise report about the air quality of Ashley and what was being done going forward, not only at Ashley, but our other schools in the system. This is not just an Ashley thing. This is a system thing. This is a district thing. So welcome to all of you who have come forward to serve as the elected officials. We hold you accountable for making sure that our children are given across the board equal access to a great education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jabbar. Next, we have Rhonda Mays, and she's going to talk about the contract and workflow.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, the board, and Dr. Emery. I am Rhonda Mays, a school social worker in this district, and I have the pleasure of serving as full-time release president of Forsyth County Association of Educators. Tonight, I wanted to address the issue about the contract flow and the use of the Title I funds and what the process is. I think this is very good information for the public to have and for us to have a better understanding of how Title I funds are used in our district. And I just hope that we can actually not only have the board, you as a board, to know. I understand you don't have to vote and approve any funds that are under 10,000, that do not, exceed $10,000, but I hope that you are aware, and I don't know if you are aware of any funds that are used, Title I funds, if they don't exceed 10,000. I know you vote on those that exceed, but it is good information, and I hope this is shared and people can understand and have a voice in how the funds are being used in our district and have a better understanding. Because I like this colorful illustration because it's easy to follow and it's very colorful and it lays out everything very clearly. So thank you for putting this out here, and this is the beginning of making certain that we are transparent to what is going on with funding in our district. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Mays. Next, we have Mr. Alfred Harvey, and he is going to speak about the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Chairman Woodbury, distinguished board members, Dr. Emery. I came today because I've been coming back again for the better part of a year, and I was still concerned about Ashley. I talked with Buildings and Grounds Supervisor about land for a new Ashley. But every time I come to this board, there's no discussion from this board with regards to Ashley. Now, Mr. Jabbar stated no elementary school has been built in Forsyth County in over 50 years. Last school built in Forsyth County that came close to the east side of town was North Hills. It's close as you got. North Hills, if you're a native of Winston-Salem, such as myself, you don't even consider that as East Winston. But to all you new folk, it may be considered East Winston. I'm here, and I would like to recognize also my co-chair from 14th Street Alumni. We're here because we are concerned about Ashley. I've talked with Buildings and Grounds Superintendent about purchasing land. He told me he looked at the site. We told him we have a site to build a new school, a school that emphasizes math and science. I know there's a conversation about how can we get the greater community involved in that school. We can get it involved because whenever you have a theme that everyone wants their kids to become a part of, parents will send their kids to that school. Case in point, years ago when we had Kimberly Park, it attracted kids from all across Forsyth County. I say that it's up to this board to demonstrate their willingness to do all that they can to put a school in East Winston that emphasizes math and science, because we have unlimited potential that is not tapped in Forsyth County, and it's not tapped in East Winston. I'd like for you to start moving Ashley up the ladder. I was told today that last on your list. Can't be last on your list. It can't be. All this talk about Hainslow Ranch, they're already in the building. All we have to do is leave them in that building. We don't have to move them anywhere, but we do need a new school. And Chairman, I'm not going to ask for those extra 2 minutes. I was reading over the minutes or the rules, and it says that you can ask for 2 extra minutes and be granted 2 extra minutes to talk before this board. I'm not going to ask for that, but I will say this much right here. To whom much is given, much is required. The citizens of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County elected each and every one of you to this board and appointed Dr. Emery. We need you all to do something for everybody in this school system. Raise up our children the way that they should be raised up. Brother Porter back there, North Carolina A&T graduate, I think he was an economics major over there. And he came from 14th Street Elementary School, Atkins High School. Let's tap that unleashed potential that we have within our community. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This concludes our public comment period on the agenda items, and next we're moving into our discussion items. First, I'll have Ms. Dion Jenkins and Ms. Kelly Hales.
Good evening, Chairwoman Woodbury, board members, and Dr. Emery. I think the real star of this discussion is probably Dr. Hales, but I wanted to start off, since we're talking about contract workflow, and Dr. Hales will share some of the changes they've made in Title I, just by providing you all a general overview of the contract administration process in our district. We do have a policy that deals with the administration of contracts in our district. It's policy 3330. You probably will see that referenced numerous times going forward as contracts come before you for approval. And that policy outlines the types of contracts that will come to the board for approval and the types of contracts that the board has delegated the authority to execute to other staff members. Some of those being the superintendent, some of those are principals and other members of this district. So I won't go into that in extreme detail, but just wanted to let you know that whenever you do have contracts that come before you in the future, there will be a description of under what authority or under what provision of the policy this contract is coming to you. I wanted to just give you a few examples of some of those situations where the board has delegated the authority to someone else to execute contracts on behalf of the district. The superintendent has the authority, for example, to execute contracts up to $100,000, assuming it doesn't fall within one of the other special categories. You will see professional development contracts that will come to you in the future. And the rule with regard to those is that if it's in excess of $10,000, it must be approved by the board. There may be other contracts that come to you for other types of professional services, and the rule with regard to those is $25,000. So I just want to give you an example of some of the special circumstances where contracts will come to you and why other contracts may not necessarily come before you. I also want to make sure that you understand that every contract in the district is required to be reviewed and approved by the school attorney. And so that means field trip contracts that come from schools, major contracts with professional development entities, contracts for engineers, etc. I see the full gamut of contracts that come to our office. And we have developed a process whereby we log those contracts in, or at least the ones that come through our office, and then they're given to me to review. And I review them as to form and legality. So if there's an issue with the contract and I feel like there needs to be modifications to the language, I will either work with the school or work directly with the vendor to modify that language so that I am satisfied that the interests of the district are protected, that all of the mandatory provisions that are required by statute to be in the contract are there, and that sort of thing. So there's sometimes some back and forth where I will be involved in making those changes. But ultimately, once I approve the contract, it's stamped literally with my stamp of approval, and it either returns to the school or returns to finance for the pre-auditing phase. So Dr. Hales, I know will go into detail about the workflow process for Title I, but I wanted to give you kind of a global overview of how that works in our district. Are there any questions generally for how contracts are administered in the district? Okay, well then I will turn it over to Dr. Hales.
Good evening, members of the board. It's a timely question, and we have the resources available because I am new to the district. I started in June, and so part of the work when I got here, it was trying to understand the existing process. So the documents you'll see later in your board materials are from collaboration between finance, legal, and federal programs to ensure compliance both locally and federally as well. So to speak about Title I funds, Title I funds for contracted services follows the same process no matter the funding source, with the exception that Title I does do a review through the staff members to ensure that it meets federal requirements and that the contract is allocable, reasonable, and necessary. That's a three-pronged test that we use to ensure that the funds meet those requirements and ensure that the funds are being used in a supplemental fashion. So based on a school improvement team's data review, the team determines how the Title I resources will be used. And again, Title I funds are above and beyond the resources provided through local and state funding. The resources support the school's work in implementing their school improvement plan. So within the school improvement plan, or NC STAR, they will identify action steps or strategies, and then there's a variety of funding sources that schools can use. And they may choose to use their Title I funds if they are a served school. In August of 2018, Legal, Finance, and Title I established a written contract workflow specifically for the Title I schools because of that additional layer of review and to ensure that a contract is appropriately executed. So the materials that you have and were referenced earlier demonstrates the workflow that we currently use. You'll see it is multiple layers. It does start at the school. The Title I funds are allocated to each participating school, and therefore they initiate the process. We then move through the Title I review, which I spoke of earlier. It then goes to legal, with Ms. Jenkins referred to. then it goes to finance, and each of these layers, there's a responsibility and a specific type of review based on that contract. And then the workflow of exceeding the $10,000, that's where you then see that the contracts then come to the Board of Education for review, and so there's a few more layers for all of that. So this was a resource, as I said, that was helpful internally, and so we were excited to be able to share it with you and others to help explain the process for the use of Title I funds. Additionally, a similar workflow is being used for departments who utilize other federal funds, such as Title II and Title IV, and that was a way to ensure, that, again, consistency with departments and schools and to comply with our local and federal requirements. Although this is a written process now, we believe in a continuous improvement process, so therefore, as we work through that process, if we need to make tweaks or we need to clarify, then we will collaborate again within those departments and make those changes and ensure to communicate to either schools or departments. So I hope that answers some of those questions previously, but I'm open to answer any other questions that you may have.
Ms. Hales, I don't have a question, but I did just want to sort of expound a little bit about what you're talking about with Title I, and just to let the public know, for the good of order, that according to the U.S. Department of Education, Title I is explained, or it is defined as improving the academic achievement of the disadvantaged. So that's key, that we understand that specifically Title I is to improve the academic achievement of the disadvantaged. And here's how the U.S. Department of Education states its purpose. The purpose of this title is to ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education and reach, at a minimum, proficiency on challenging state academic achievement standards and state academic assessments. And of course, this purpose can be accomplished by a plethora of ways, but at the end of the day, I just want us to be mindful, and I know that Ms. Hales has done a great job in helping us to understand better Title I, that, you know, the direct impact needs to be on student academic achievement as it relates, especially for our at-risk or disadvantaged students.
That is all correct. Yes.
Thank you,
That is the
Ms.
premise
Hales,
of
'cause I'm
Title
not-
I. Yeah.
Chairwoman Woodbury, I have a question around a contract for Forest Park that was supposed to be on our agenda in December. I think board members had some questions around it, and I think that staff then sent us out answers to those questions, and it was not on the agenda again for tonight. I'm not sure if I missed an email of additional questions and responses. I'm just trying to figure out, kind of to your point of, I think the principal had wanted that, and it seems like we've waited a long time to do that. That's kind of question one, where does that stand? And then second, do we have a time frame around when things come through which would require action of the board, since there's obviously a lot of thought at the school level about that, of when it gets on our agenda so that we're not holding up something that would benefit the children?
So to your first question, yes, that item with the TNTP contract was taken off, but Dr. Emery and Dr. Roseborough and the principal over at Forest Park, we're going to work together to get some more questions, I think, responded to, and just to have a dialogue and get more understanding, especially for the new school board members. So ideally, they're going to come to the curriculum committee and to explain further the necessary elements of that contract by way of direct impact on students. I think that was just our concerns. So we anticipate that on our next meeting that it will be on the agenda for sure.
So, and as my school board chair, I would just ask that when questions come up, because I think we all learn when people are asking questions. I've seen a little bit, but not all of it, and so if some of that could somehow be shared with all board members so that we can learn through the process, I would appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely, and I will be that much more considerate of that. Thank you. And then the second question related to the time.
Just a timeline. I didn't know if we had in policy or any, or if there was a kind of rule of thumb that we went on when principals are asking for these contracts to be approved by the board. If we had a timeline, or if that was something we should put in there. I know that a lot of times these contracts are much part of their PLTs and other things, and so it works
Yeah.
in their workflow, so I'm just not sure.
Absolutely, and I think that, I'm not sure if that is located anywhere in policy about the timeline, but I did go back and look to see if the, contract had come up previously in a curriculum committee meeting, and it had not, so, as I was trying to dig deeper into making sure that, we were getting all of the information necessary to make a, great decision, I didn't see it there, but to your point, I think that we definitely need to be very mindful of the timeline, because schools do need, a response so that they could move, expeditiously. But I do want to make sure that with all fidelity, that at the forefront of this is disadvantaged children and the direct impact that Title I can have on their success. So that's really, the focus, but point well made.
Well, moving forward, will all contracts go to the curriculum committee first and then come to the board?
So I'm not prepared to answer that right now, definitely. But I think that's something that we should consider. In my opinion, I think that it should go before the curriculum committee and then move to this group. But I think that's a group decision that we should consider.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
You're welcome. Next, we're going to hear from Board Member Kaplan. She's going to talk to us about the Finance Committee report.
Thank you. We had our Finance Committee meeting today, and Frida Lashmet, who is our finance budget guru, discussed the 2018-2019 amendment to budget number 3 and transfer number 3, which can be found along with the budget on the Board of Education website for anyone who would like to see it. So please let us know if you have any questions or concerns. Frida also discussed the upcoming budget and budget timeline. And next week, Kimberly and Frida will be gathering the proposed budgets from the department heads, and Joette will send out dates for the end of January and the 1st of February for presenting the proposed budgets to Dr. Emery. The Finance Department will also be starting the process of using an Excel format for simplification, and we will get feedback on that ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Kaplan. Next, we're going to hear from Board Member Crawley. She's going to give us a report from the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Thank you. The Buildings and Grounds met directly after the Finance Committee meeting today. And Darrell Walker started us with an employee recognition of a Wiley Middle School employee, Kiana Bennett, who works in the Child Nutrition Department. We were informed also by Mr. Walker about the Yadkin Valley Quail and Upland Wildlife Bluebird Box installation. And this includes a gift of 25 Bluebird boxes that will determine which schools will be the new owners of those. We approved the Tomahawk Creek sewer line easement, which is on the property of Louisville Middle School. We had a 2006 bond projects update from Colin Moore, and for Mr. Jabbar's benefit, we did discuss the Ashley project there as far as getting it on the bond and what steps would need to be taken to do any kind of inclusion of that in the current bond, and also looking to if there's a future bond. And then we also approved the Conowick Elementary School construction contract change order that came about due to just a lot of rock on the site, and was more than what we had predicted and had made allowances for, and it did go over that, and so there's a change order to pay for that. And that concludes our meeting for Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, and that concludes our discussion items. Next, we have 2 action items. One is to consider approval of the Tomahawk Creek sewer line easement, and then the other is the approval of the construction contract change order for Conoke. Is there a motion for the approval of the Tomahawk Creek Sewer Line easement?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so it's approved. The next item is the approval for the construction contract change order for Conoke. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion is passed, approved. Thank you. The next item of business is the consent agenda items, and I would like to say that we're approving the meeting minutes for December 13th, 2018, and also the approval of the general personnel report. Is there a motion to pass the consent agenda items?
I make a motion.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, the motion is approved. Next, we're going to go into the meetings open to the public. And I will just, remind us again that, of course, you have
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.